Whenever you are ready.
Testing, testing. You guys hear me all right?
Yep, hear you loud and clear.
Cool. I have LUMN up on one screen and then QCOM on the other. QCOM just got 157 ask, and
Okay.
then LUMN had ask at 14 that just pulled back from.
Okay. Which one would you rather go to?
I mean, personally, I like QCOM just because of the better range, and just looking at the chart on LUMN, I just don't like it. It just kind of moves funky.
Okay. So I'm going to keep up QCOM right now, and then I'll keep LUMN on another screen.
So here's where I get a little confused because we did have the buying earlier, and then it pulled back, and now we're kind of on our way up, but we are getting 157 ask, 158 ask. So like we would need another pullback from there to go along, right?
We would. Now, unfortunately, it's not, for some reason, I just changed it, and it's not coming up. How many prints were at 157?
Let me scroll back. 1, 2, 3. I have like 5.
Okay, so above print personality,
Yeah.
and then 158 above print personality. And if we look, the first time it had 157, it made a nice push past it first. So it looks like it's kind of history repeating itself.
Mm-hmm.
So what would I want to see now?
See some selling riders come in.
The people coming in to sell before that bar ends up coming back to the downside. Now, where would you have your order set?
Right now, maybe like 57, 60-ish area.
Yeah, so the bars aren't that crazy. So at 158.22, we'd be looking at like 71, 74, somewhere in that area. 76 would be better because it would be above the 75 level, but to miss it over a couple cents is just not smart, especially when it's got a range like that.
Mm-hmm. So we're getting a little bit of selling.
Mm-hmm. So did we have a trigger there?
Yes, but it wasn't like too crazy.
So
Would
what
you enter on
percentage
that?
would you put on that trigger?
Maybe like 5%.
Okay, about half.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Now, why would we say that's a trigger based off what we're looking at, but only
Because it
put it at
hasn't,
about 5%?
just because it hasn't really showed previously that it's going to give these massive trigger bars. All the bars are kind of smaller.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard to expect the same bar that we got for the original triggers with that much volume in
Yeah.
comparison to what we ended up seeing coming in right now. It's definitely going to be a lot harder. Okay, but we have on our prints, we're basing off 60% and then 5% in a trigger. That's a 65% trade. Is that something worth taking?
Nah, not this early in the morning.
No. Especially considering, I mean, if this thing is looking to go, it's going to be hard to cut your loser quickly out of that just because of the way, its bars aren't crazy, but they have a lot of range within them.
Mm-hmm.
65% trade is set for something that, is going, when things are slower and there's really no other choice. It's too early in the morning to be taking a 65% trade.
Gotcha. So we're kind of just waiting for something new to come in.
Mm-hmm. More selling. I mean, that just because this bar right here didn't work out, which we know pretty much the percentage told us it wasn't a great trade. Just because that didn't work out doesn't mean we're not going to get a better bar coming in. So really what we want to do is we
Okay.
want to start looking at our prints and make sure just because we couldn't take that one doesn't mean that we start to see some more selling coming in, that the bar that we get that actually is 70, at least 70%, we
Okay.
don't take. Just wasn't time yet. You got to think this early in the morning, 65%, that's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
What about this bar?
Not enough.
Mm-hmm. Why wasn't it not enough?
It didn't really break below that little tiny consolidation we're in either.
There you go. It was pretty damn close. I'm not gonna lie, I might have hit the
Yeah,
button because it was close. But it technically, if I did get into this trade right here, because I honestly I was expecting it to be able to break past there. And if I did get in this trade, what would I have to be ready to do right now?
get out.
Yeah, I pretty much have to have my hand on the trigger.
Mm,
But that was one of these bars happen. They're going to happen quite often where it's so close to where it needs to be. So the anticipation, you end up clicking it, but it just doesn't quite get there. And that's going to happen.
and it's not really like a bad thing either. It's not worth missing the trade on if you trigger, if you can just take it and then get out like 2 cents above where you're in at.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, we saw that it didn't really make there. So if I'm going to have to get out, big deal. So, at this point, technically, you probably would have made like 10 cents, which is like,
Yeah.
obviously that's not what we're going for whatsoever. But it was just, it's one of those things. It was really, really close. That happens with volume to me sometimes too, where the volume looks like it's going to be perfect. And then it just stops. And it's like, it doesn't hit the amount of volume that it would need to get out of either a dip or a valley. And it's like, crap. So at that point, it's like, okay, 10, 20 cents, what are you going to do? But we can always get back in.
Volume's also waning off.
So what's that telling us is coming real soon?
A bar, or it's a spike in volume. So at this point, would you still be looking for your trigger to the downside?
I have to.
Gotcha.
It hit. That's the second time it hit 157. Then it hit Ask Prince at 158. My rules say I have to. Just because it's not set up yet to be able to go to be able to go for that number 4 trade. And if you think about it, what does its personality show me when it prints at a bunch of different levels?
It's gonna pull back. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, look at the size of this pullback right.
And then some selling right there.
That followed. And so remember, we talked about in Traders Exchange too. If we come to the low of this bar, it's 1501, 157.01. Okay. We got some selling in the middle and towards the end of it. That's a big one, the 157.12. Because print personality in this is not huge at all. And look at your trade.
Nice.
Oh, it's just magical. Now we have to understand something. A bar this big, what can we expect?
To come back a little bit.
It's definitely going to pull up a little bit, but one of the great things about that bar's price action, look at the volume. Is the volume out of hand? Was it?
I mean, it's kind of perfect almost. It's a little much,
it's not
unsustainable.
Exactly. So we know it's going to pull up a little bit, but that doesn't mean we have to get out of our trade because it has more continuation possibility because it's not unsustainable. And look what happens.
Nice.
Oh, what a pretty trade, man. Qualcomm is what a hell of a trade today. And this was perfect. Derek, thank you for that. You're not supposed to be trading during class. To be completely honest, if I was in class, I would have took it. It's just too high percentage. So I can't be, I could pretend to be mad, but in my head, I'm not really. I mean, this is just perfect. So let's now manage it. Okay, so what you're seeing, let's talk it out. Let's manage this trade.
It's 55.26 selling. We like that. We're also going down to the double bottom, so we gotta expect people to be covering too.
What other number? What number do we have that just kind of
55?
Yeah, so that's a big psych number, right? We know it's not going to be an easy thing to break, so we have to see prints like this at 155.26, but we really want to see more than that. What's our point where we're going to take off a lot of our position right now?
It's print line or 55.
If it breaks the print line, not coming towards the print line, if it were to break the print line. Because that's like, you don't ever, if you're short a stock, you don't ever get out at a resistance point. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
But if it were to break that, if it comes over that print line, then yes, then we're going to take off a large portion of it. These are my favorite trades that you end up making like all the money the trade needs to make in 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Because now you get to go back. I mean, you want to talk about getting as far away as quickly as possible. I mean, that's pretty much by definition what that is. Okay, so 155, 156.04 is our number. All right. At this point, we take off a bunch.
Yeah,
Now, what's a bunch? What percentage do you think a bunch is?
like 75%.
At least. Because right now we're going to lock in our great trade. This first of all, it has the buying to go higher. So we'd even at that 155 point, we'd be looking to go long if we weren't in it short, wouldn't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we got to take off a huge portion and lock in that great trade that we made. Now coming down to 155 would have been a spot we wouldn't take off a ton, but we'd still be looking to take maybe 30% off at that point because of the fact that 155 when a stock is pulling back, that's a psychological level, a logical spot for it to start coming back towards the top side.
Gotcha.
Would you have taken any off when it didn't break 155? That's exactly what I was just saying. So when it was coming down to that 155 point and we saw it kind of hesitate there, I definitely maybe 30%. So I'm not going to take a huge amount off yet, but I'm definitely going. You have to. All right. So you want to keep going on this easy one, or do you want to pick some harder? I'm just kidding.
I can pick a new one.
All right. So let's do some sketch.